Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are joining from, and welcome to Red Piranha's Crystal Eye Essentials Module 2. Firstly, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country and recognise their continuing care for and connection to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to them and to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Dana Bennett. I am one of the business development managers based here in Western Australia. Today, I'll be hosting this session alongside our product manager, Ben Aylett. We also have one of our awesome client service managers, Jekka, who will be moderating today. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat on the right-hand side. A quick note before we go any further. Please have your credentials you used last week in Module 1. You will be needing the main MSP or end client account in order to register your training instance. Don't log into the training instance just yet. We like everyone to follow along at the same time. We use custom certificates, so if you see a warning, click Advanced. The chat window is the best place to ask your questions during the session. We also collect these questions for later use to help further develop our courses. Last week, during Crystal Eye Essentials Module 1, you were introduced and given an overview of the Crystal Eye dashboard. The objective today, Ben will do a walkthrough with you of an appliance setup, configuring, and tuning. At the end of this session, we will go through the value partnership with Red Piranha. And if you have completed Module 1, you will receive a certificate of completion. We have added a note at the bottom of the slide here to ensure you have your STOAR account for this training. We will be providing you the instances to work alongside this training, so please say hello in the right-hand side of the screen and look out for the virtual login assigned to you. A quick recap on the Crystal Eye XDR platform. 5 pillars of cybersecurity: the capability to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, all from one orchestrate. Now, we are going to take you through various topics in our Module 2 session today: deployment and device setup, network interface and controls, our security and compliance controls, as well as reporting and these 2 important dashboards you will need to become acquainted with. After the demo, we will discuss the support options available to you. But now I'm going to hand you over to our cyber celebrity, Ben Aylett, to take you through the rest of the training. Over to you, Ben.
Celebrity, come on, really. All right, so yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us, and I hope a lot of you have actually come from last week's webinar, because if you have, you're well and truly ready to dive into part 2. Right, so I'll just share my screen here and we will get underway. Oh, actually, no, let's check. Yes, all right. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, this technical note that I touched on last week. Yeah, if you're an engineer like me, you see a socket, you want to put a plug in it. No, don't do that. All you need is power, LAN and WAN to be hooked up, and then you point your web browser to either crystaleye.lan:81 or 10.10.11.81. Once you've done that, you'll have access to the interface that most of you should be looking at right now, which we'll be going into very, very shortly. But before we do that, we're going to have a quick talk about how we can deploy these appliances. So these appliances can be deployed in a number of ways. So they can be the more traditional way, which is our inline gateway, which is the simplest deployment and allows us to use all of the features. So not only just for monitoring, but it can also be used to implement proper protection and compliance. And basically, it's the way it's intended to be deployed. Now, there are cases where putting it in a like a proper deployment, is not an option. You may want to have it deployed in conjunction with other security hardware. So it can go in what we call inline NSM. So that's network security monitoring. So it doesn't actually affect the protections. You may have that already taken care of with another security appliance that you may have in your network. Further to that, we've also got our out of band. Now, out of band is when we put our Crystal Eye appliance sort of outside of the normal network, and it's used for monitoring again. And it's really like non-intrusive monitoring. The previous one where we have inline NSM, this is a way that we're having a lot of appliances deployed at the moment, where we've got to work with existing infrastructure. And one of the key advantages of this is that it allows us to gradually deploy features and take over parts of the security monitoring and protection that's already being taken care of by other products. So as they're being decommissioned, we're able to stand up the features and the applications in the Crystal Eye appliance to take over those products that might be reaching end of life that we're replacing. Now, just covering our types of deployment, we would have covered it last week as well. We do have our on-premise appliance. So that's a Crystal Eye XDR on-premise appliance you see there right in the middle of the screen. To the left, you see the Crystal Eye XDR Cloud. That's a version that we'll be playing with today for our training instance. And we've also got our XDR endpoints where we have an XDR application installed on endpoints. And that will be including the CEASR app. So that's the Crystal Eye Attack Surface Reduction app, which also includes some other nice little features like on-device DFIR, application control, and so on, which we'll be talking about towards the end of this session. Now, the Crystal Eye XDR Appliances, this is a quick rundown on the hardware that goes into these and their application. Let's see, we're not using the Pentium G5400 anymore. We're now using Gen 11 and it's soon to transition to Gen 12. So we're looking at the 6400 and the 7400, and then the same thing with all of the Core Eye series processors. So as you can see, we're running pretty high-end hardware in comparison to the rest of the market. So quite happy with where things are at with that, and we're looking forward to implementing Gen 12 very, very soon. And of course, because Intel being Intel, we'll be doing Gen 13, I feel like in a matter of months. Now, we did talk about throughput last time. Here is a quick table showing us a throughput by series. So if you've got a particular need where we might need to transfer, I think somebody talked about 1.3 gigabits per second of true security throughput. That's possible with the Series 50, which is capable of 1.4 gigabits per second in true security throughput. So that's the third column there. Again, true security throughput is when we have all of the features turned on. Not like competitors where they say we've got a line speed of 10 gigabits per second because that's what it says on the network card. We actually go and put monitoring and filtering on top of that, and we say this is what the actual practical throughput is. Okay, now for the fun part, demonstration time. So we'll be doing a first installation walkthrough, then we'll be going over a tour of the Crystal Eye 4.0 interface. If we have time, I might even give you guys a bit of a sneak peek at some of the things we have with 4.5 coming up, because I do have access to that at the moment. And if we need to, we can go back over certain parts of the Orchestrate dashboard. All right, now time for me to share a screen. So hopefully everyone has seen this. Let's go full screen so we can look at a nice large screen. All right, so connection isn't private. This is expected because it's using self-signed certificates, and because this is the first time we're setting it up, we haven't had a chance to install the certificate. So at this point, we can just click on Advanced and then continue on to the training instance, or in the case of a real deployment, that'll be going on to Crystal Eye .lan:81. All right. Now, everyone should have also received the credentials, which is admin, and the password I'll paste into chat in case anyone's missing it. We log in there. All right, now we should all be able to see this. Anyone who can't see this, just quickly put your hand up now or just let us know so we can make sure that you're ready to get going. We've got a lot of people on today. We just want to make sure we don't leave anyone behind. Okay. All right, so this is a brief introduction to Crystal Eye Enterprise 4. You've got a link to the installation guide, user guide. In most cases with these deployments, it's just a matter of clicking the next button. So let's click on next. Now this is the point where we have a look at our network interfaces. There's no need for us to change anything right now. I actually suggest we don't change anything at the moment. I can quite happily go through and show you some of the differences we have here. So I can go in here and have a look at our interface, and we can have a look at the ways that it can be changed. So at the moment, this is DHCP. It can be static if we want it to be. We don't want it right now. We can set zones. We can give it a description, play with MTUs. We can enable a DHCP server. We're not going to do that on a WAN port, obviously. But if we were to do that on a LAN port, we can. So this is where we've got DHCP enabled. It's been given a static address. That's the address there, netmask description, and so on. Now, those of you that need to create a PPPoE connection, we can do this quite easily. So typically this goes on our WAN 1 connection. You'd click the Add Interface button. Now, just if I know some of you are bound to be playing around and having a look for yourselves, that's totally okay. Just please don't save any changes. Do not click the Add button. Always click Cancel. All right, so let's pretend we're setting up a PPPoE connection. We set the type to PPPoE. It's got the zone automatically set. You just put in the username and the password. It's a good idea to make sure you know your LCP values, timeouts, clamp values, and so on. If you've got access to them, certainly put them in because they may vary from ISP to ISP. And once we're done with that, we'd click Add, but not in this case. We click Cancel. And you will see a second interface, which will be hanging off WAN 1. So I might be able to show you an example of that. Network settings, here's one I prepared earlier. All right, yep, that doesn't look too bad. I'll put that there. So here's an example of a PPPoE connection. You can see we've got it established here. It's all configured, and we've got the interface enabled. We've just found that things work a little better if you were to set up a PPPoE connection, that you disable the WAN 1 connection. So this allows proper routing and so on. Okay, I will have to move that across. All right, I'll get that out of the way and put that back there. Cool. All right, so now that you've worked out how network interfaces go, we can simply click on Next to go into DNS servers. Now, DNS, as we know, is very, very important when it comes to keeping networks running, because whenever anything fails, it's always DNS. It's a good idea not to mess with this because in most cases it's working as it should be. And also we try to control DNS on the Crystal Eye appliance, because if you don't control DNS, you don't control your network. Hope that makes sense. So you can just click on Next, and we go on to our system registration. Now, this is where we use the username and password that we created or used last week in the Orchestrate exercises. So we go and click on Register System. Now, when it comes to registering the system, I think I banged on about this enough last week, but we'll keep going again this week. It's very, very important that we register the system in the name of the person that's being protected, or the entity that's being protected. So if you're an MSP and you're setting this up for the client, you've got to set this up in the name of the client because they're the ones being protected. So in this case, we'll be getting our old friend Carl and getting him sorted out. So I will pop in Carl's email address and his password. And we can give the system a name as well. So we'll just say test, let's see, October 2022. And then we can click on Register System. Now, as long as you've got a license, you probably don't need a license for these demo units, but you will need a license for when you buy your Crystal Eye appliance. We can assign a license to that. So this is a slightly earlier version of the operating system. We do have the more current ones where you've actually got to select the license that you'll be using, so we can really link those licenses to the deployments. Now that we've got this set up, we can all click on Next. Now, if anyone's fallen behind, please speak up. If everyone's up to speed, that's good too. Let us know. Yes. If you're not up to speed, just say no. All right, haven't seen any panicking. Looks like we're going well. Okay, so setting time and date, very important because we want to make sure we get this right, especially when it comes to reading reports. We'll want to know exactly when things have gone pear-shaped, when they eventually do, because we know that people are going to try to attack us. So it's good to know when they try to attack us, so that way we can effect proper incident response. So we make sure we've got the right time zone, make sure that's enabled, double check the time, which is correct. Click on next. Now at this point, we get a chance to have a quick peek at our storage. So the system storage on these devices is 32 gig, and we can verify that this is the case. We can click on next. Now, just a quick word, we've got a patch in progress. At the moment, the system storage is not being reflected in this report. It's only misreporting. The storage is still there, otherwise we wouldn't be seeing the screen at all. But that's a little thing we're fixing up very shortly. We'll be releasing to production over the next week or so. So now we just click on next. Okay, so Stephen's stuck on registration. Stephen, have you... Okay, so just going back to registration, you use the email address and the password you used to register with the Orchestrate or the client dashboard. And it looks something like... I think of that one, there we go. It looks something like that. So that's the dashboard. So if you've registered this with this system and you can see the screen, you use the email address and password that you use to log into this dashboard. Does that answer your question, Stephen? Excellent. All right. So once you've caught up, we'll push ahead, but I'll let you race ahead. I'll just take it nice and slow so you get a chance to catch up. So everyone else, slowly click on next. And we'll go on to incident and event services. Yeah, any second now. Oh, there we go. So I think the screen was just inactive for a second. Now this may take some time because it's just at this point, it does take a little bit of time for communication, especially probably because we're all sitting on the same instance or cluster, and they're all trying to communicate back with our servers and such. So it could get a little bit slow around this point. All right, there we go. So this is a point where we're making the connection to our Red Piranha SIEM. We can also select our service level. So the service level is what is affected at the time of purchase. So typically we have silver or level 1. We do also offer gold and platinum. We covered this last week in the features and benefits for those different levels of SIEM. This is the time where you'd actually set it to the SIEM that you signed up for. So we've got silver, that's all we need. Just click on update. And that should say that it's connected and gone green. If it hasn't, this is a demo. Don't worry about it too much, but it should work when it comes to deploying your own real appliance in the field. What we can also do is update our contact details. Now, contact details, very important. Again, we make sure that the primary contact is the end user or the person being protected or the entity being protected. So in this case, we go in, we click on edit, and we now get the chance to put in Carl's name and his office number. We'll just go like that. Mobile number, go like that, and email. Gmail.com. All right. Now the secondary contact information, if you're an MSP, you can put it in here. So that way, if anything does happen, we need to get in touch with someone to let them know that there's either been an outage or an incident or some sort of alert that the SOC operations center wants to reach out and talk to someone. It's always a good idea to include the MSP details here as well, so that way they're aware of something that might be going on. You can really get ahead of it because you're monitoring it. Carl probably isn't, and you can look like a superstar by responding before Carl even knows there's a problem. So we'll say Emma logs in here, office number, mobile number, .org, whatever. Choose your preferred method of contact. In this case, we'll say mobile. Click on submit, and there we go. We've updated our contact information. It doesn't like, how did that get in there? There we go. Let's try that again. Any second now. All right. Now the contact information has been received. Everything's looking good. We also have down here a little readout of the log files that are monitored as a part of our SIEM level. Right, we can now click on next. Okay, here's the fun part. We can now go through and select all apps that we want to play with. So I would say that let's just select everything for installation, just go for it. So we start off with system configuration, Active Directory authentication, high availability, and this should also give you a good idea on what these devices are capable of. Now, there are a couple of applications that aren't available to all systems. That is high availability and multi-WAN. Now, this is only unavailable on Series 10. The reason for that is that the Series 10 only has a single WAN port and a single LAN port. In order to have multi-WAN, obviously you're going to need more than one WAN port, and to have high availability, you're going to need to dedicate a network port for the use of communication between the two nodes. Just on another note, wireless access point, it is an access point. It's pretty rudimentary in the way it works. It's not high performance. I tend to reserve this for, say, if you've got it sitting in a cabinet, instead of having to futz around with cables and plug things in, it's just handy to have a wireless access point running and active, and it's just used for administration purposes only. At a pinch, it'll work in a small office. So if you've got this sitting on a desk in the middle of like an open plan office, this should do the job quite happily as an access point, giving everyone access to the internet while keeping everyone secure. Now, compliance controls. Now, while we're on this page, just a quick warning, packet capture analysis and vulnerability scanning, it's pretty processor intensive, and I'd implore you to not try and kick off a packet capture analysis or a vulnerability scan, especially on these demo instances, because it can really chew up processor time, and it's just going to create a headache for everyone. So as tempting as it may be, just hold off until you get your own NFR device. All right, we've also got active session, protocol detail report, system resource report, all sorts of reporting. Again, this is something you can play with. Now that we've selected everything for installation, we can click on next. And now that we've clicked on next, we can click on download and install. All right, now we can see that it's now going through the process of downloading and installing all of the applications we've selected. How's everyone going? Anyone having any problems at this point? Okay. What we can do, we can take advantage of the fact that this is like a multi-process appliance. So while this is doing the download and installation in the background, we can click on next. And we can start doing some risk auditing. So if you've just deployed this to a new customer location, oh dear, Terry, too far behind. What part are you at there, Terry? While waiting for the answer, we can go and have a look at our critical security controls. Oh dear. Okay, Terry, we can probably circle back later on if we've got time. All right, and Key, yeah, sorry about that's interesting as well. We might review that too. Okay, critical security controls. We can do a risk audit. So this is a good little exercise to do while we're waiting for the download and installation of applications. We can go in and give the asset a name, so it's a test name, and we can start asking all these difficult questions of the customer, which is hopefully going to set up the conversation for improving cybersecurity as we progress down the next, 3 to 5 years, as we try to make our cybersecurity posture better. So we can do things like actively manage hardware devices on the network, so only authorized access devices given access. We can say that, as I only know a few people who actually managed to do this completely, but as you can see, we've got a whole list of things we can play with. And once you're done, you can just click on submit, and it'll come back with a report. And this report will give you an idea on your level of risk. So we've got 4,032 pending risks. It just gives you an idea of what's going on. So you've got like submission date, subject, application, and also additional notes. So it gives you a pretty good idea of all the things that need to be addressed. I tend to skip over this part when we're trying to deploy something to the field, because we want to get it up and running as quickly as possible. Just scoot right back to the top. Okay, we should now be able to click on next. Hopefully everything's finished installing. We can click on confirm. If it hasn't finished installing, that's no big deal. It'll keep doing this in the background, and we'll have these applications stand up as they come online. All right, now it's time to take a bit of a tour through the Crystal Eye user interface. So as you can see, we're getting these warning messages. It's saying that these services have stopped running or are not running, and that's your web proxy server, Forcefield, SIEM, and so on. We've also got a status update showing our installation wizard is complete. Now you'll get these warning flags at the top of the screen when you're looking at things like your system dashboard or security dashboard. You'll also see it on the orchestrate dashboard as well. So you've got access to things like your network interface, external network interface. This is going to be showing blank while we're working with our Amazon training instances because there's no traffic. We've also got access to things like our CPU usage. So you can have a look at the CPU, like current process usage. You can see how those processes are being divided up between various applications. We can also look at particular cores. I tend to leave it at that. And we've also got memory usage. Again, we can look at our current memory usage, see how it's been divided between different applications, or just look at the usage in general. We have our app status widget, where we can start and stop applications. So things like our proxy server, where you can just click on start, and that will start the proxy server application from the system menu. Okay, we've also got Forcefield and instant and event services. So we'll just start those as well. Come on, start. And start. All right, we've also got a readout of our events. We've got access to our shutdown and restart functions. Word of warning, when it comes to shutting down these devices or restarting them, we've got to be mindful that they are running databases, they're a Linux-based system, so graceful shutdown and graceful restarting is really important. So it's best done through the user interface. If you don't have access to the user interface, it is still possible to initiate a shutdown using the hardware power on, power off button. The trick is you just press it and release it like any other power button. Don't hold it in. You just press and release, and it will go through the shutdown process. But of course, being Linux, the need to restart it should be all we need to do. Oh, sorry, the need to restart it we shouldn't need to do it because it's Linux. Sorry about that. All right, so we've also got our recent software activity. Now, what we've done with our software updates is we've taken a leaf out of the book of the likes of Apple, like iOS and Android, where you get automatic application updates. So as soon as those updates are available, they are deployed on the appliance automatically because we have automatic updates installed. When we have things like a major software update, which we can have a quick look at if we go to System Configuration Software Updates, major updates will be under the system software. So currently everyone's running version 4.0. In a month or two, we'll be introducing 4.5. So 4.5 will initially ship on brand new appliances as they're ordered from the factory. And we will also be doing a field upgrade program as well. So just keep an eye open for that. You'll either receive an email from Red Piranha saying the update's available and we've got a process ready to go, or you'll see it wind up in the system software where you can just set it as default. So this is one of the key things that I really liked about this appliance. Those of you that have also done that have done software updates in the past, you know the stress of having to update firmware, hope it works and hope it works well, because rolling back in case it doesn't work is a real pain. What we do here is that we actually set it up like a dual boot system. So you can have 4.5 come down and be available for you to install, and you just say set as default. The system will restart and boot into version 4.5. If for any reason you need to roll back to version 4.0, you can just by setting default there. Okay, let's go back to our system dashboard we've done. Security dashboard. This is a fun one. Now, security dashboard, this is a nice pretty dashboard with a world map and just an idea on all the attacks that are going on. Okay, IDPS and SIEM, so these are still being installed. Okay, but as you can see, we've got our map here. We've got a list on the left-hand side. This is banned IP addresses, so it's found IP addresses of people trying to get into the system and they failed 3 times, therefore they're on the ban list. If you have an engineer trying to access an appliance from a remote location, and if they get their username password to get into the Crystal Eye appliance wrong 3 times, they'll be finding themselves on the ban list. This is a good way for you to manage that. So if they get banned, you'll see their IP address pop up here. They'll contact you, say this is my WAN IP, and then you should be able to click on allow to let them in. But in most cases, engineers are pretty good. They remember their usernames and passwords. This is typically just bad guys being clumsy trying to get into our appliance. You've got our map in the middle. What I'll do, because this is a little bit boring, I will get another map up. Yes. Just to give you an idea on how busy it can get. So this should give you a pretty clear picture. So we can see that this has been here for a while. We've got attacks happening, and we'll see, there we go. And so the map's populating, and you can see the attack map here, so we can tell where attacks are coming from. We can also have a look at our protocols. So the top protocols, top devices. And the really cool thing is we've also got this list of alerts that we can look at. So here we go. So one's just come in here from this IP address coming in on our external interface. The point of origin looks like it's the United States. We'll see. So an SSH scan has been blocked. What we can do is we can click on this and have a closer look at these threats. So we can choose to disable the rule. We can change the rule actions with a click of a button. So we can choose the change of action to alert, pass, or reject. We'll leave it at reject. Now you'll also notice we've got an escalate button here as well. This is a really cool feature where if you see an alert and you want to investigate it further, but you don't quite understand what's going on here, you can send an escalation to our SOC. So only, please ignore. Just so the guys don't lose their minds, please don't escalate any alerts that you might be getting on your appliance. This is just for information purposes only. but you can do this. So if you were to say, I'd like to know more about this, what do I do? Click on submit, an alert will be generated and it'll appear on the SOC dashboard where they will investigate and then come back with feedback. So they'll either say there's adjustments you need to make to your rules or it's nothing to worry about. I'll just pop that away. Okay. So further down here, we've also got our scan summary. So we're scanning for viruses using our signature files and heuristics as they cross the gateway, so as they cross that perimeter. We've also got our IDPS alerts and statistics. I'll bring that back there. So there we go. So we can see that we're capturing a lot of alerts. We can also have a look at our top IPs. So whoever's been busy, so we can see that Madison's been busy with all the downloading, and the dad top's also been downloading a lot of traffic. So we know where a lot of the traffic's going, and this helps us identify the busy users, and it also allows us to look at things like who's been uploading a lot as well. So I'd be taking a look at this too. This is probably coming from the Crystal Eye appliance itself. Okay, we've also got our network map. We've got a new version coming out. So this is going to be looking a lot neater with 4.5. So I'm really looking forward to showing that off as well. We've got our top protocols, and we've also got protocol classification. I think this is an extra that I've started playing with, because you can change the settings of your dashboards. You can change the way that they they display things. So you can say column row 5, 2 columns, we'll just say none. We'll update that. And we'll notice that those last 2 things have now disappeared because we've removed those columns. So you can customize these dashboards quite effectively. We've also got our threat hunt dashboard. This in itself, using this properly, it's a whole webinar or 2 on its own. It's quite in depth. So we'll just have a quick look at it and then we'll move on, because we are going to be running short on time soon. Let's have a quick look at our system configuration. We've got our task scheduler. So obviously we'll want to set up like daily or like regular schedules. So we can do that through here. We've got our account manager, which you've got your accounts to manage. So you've got your groups. So we have our security certificates users, VPN users, and web proxy users. These are groups where we can set policies, and this also can be extended to Active Directory authentication. Stephen, it's a good question. What kind of tasks would you schedule? You'd schedule things like switching on rules, or like IDPS rules, or firewall rules, or packet capture analysis, or backups, or pretty much anything. The idea is we've got the task scheduler able to work across the entire range of applications and functions on the Crystal Eye appliance. So we're really leaning into the automation here. Now, Active Directory authentication, this is something we also support, and it works quite well. You can set up your 3 main groups. So you've got your admin group, you've also got your VPN group, and you've got your certificates group. This is going to be extended as well. So we'll be getting more and more functionality, but this means that you can get those users in your Active Directory, drop them into these custom groups, and they can just use their username and password when either logging into the appliance. So if you set up people who are going to be supervisors and just looking at the system, you can drop them into that AD group. It'll populate in onto the Crystal Eye. It's also very handy for when you want to set up VPN access. So you drop these users into the VPN group on the Active Directory server, populates on the Crystal Eye appliance, and hey presto, they can authenticate their VPN connection with the Crystal Eye appliance based on the account in the Active Directory server. Excuse me. Okay, we can also set up local accounts and groups. So we can set up our local users. You've got some basic users here that we've set up. We've also got our groups. So these again are the groups that we've also defined, and that's populates with our Active Directory server. And administrators. Now this is really handy. If you wanted to set up a particular user, say, let's say Carl wants to jump onto his appliance and have just the dashboard, the security dashboard showing, and put it up on a big screen. we can do that, and then also restrict access for Carl to things like the network, because we don't want users having the ability to mess up a network or any other sort of controls that we have there that are critical. So we can set up administrator groups that way. Okay, so it's account roles. Backup, of course, very important. One of the first things I do after setting up a new appliance is I take a base configuration backup, and then we set a daily backup. And this is another thing that this is where we do our scheduling. So back to your question there, Stephen, this is where one of the things that we schedule. So you've got your configuration backup and restore. We've also got our bare metal backup and restore. So this is more of a complete backup. So things like logs and applications and configuration, the whole lot. So if we need to replace an appliance completely, we can do that and then restore our bare metal backup. So it comes back as like nothing happened. We've also got access to our storage manager. Pretty straightforward. We know how that works. Date and time, we understand that one. Factory reset. Now, because I also come from an engineering background, I think factory reset is one of these great tools to help zero things so we can start over. We ask people to exercise caution when using this, because if it's not done correctly or without taking proper precautions, it can mean that the system becomes hard to use. So only use this feature when directed by Red Piranha support staff, as it says there. Now, what it does do is it will zero all of your settings so that your network, IDPS, everything goes back to default, with the exception of your registration. So the registration still stays. So if we register this to Carl and we do a factory reset, when we come back into it, it's still going to be registered to Carl. So just keep that in mind. It's not something we can use to factory reset and then pick up and then relocate to another customer, because compliance. All right, we've also got general settings. We've got access to our shutdown and restart buttons here. We've also got access to setting our partner details. Now you may notice that we've got this little logo here. So this is on my customized system. I've created a logo, which we've then set up in our partner details. You're more than welcome to do your own while you've got access to it. But this will show up when we have content filtering, block access to a web page. It's also handy for branding the appliance with your logo. So not only is this a Crystal Eye XDR appliance, it's also a Crystal Eye XDR appliance that's supported by your business. So you can upload the logo right there. So just PNG and JPG. This is not GeoCities, so animated GIFs are out. Sorry about that. Hosts and groups. This is a really powerful tool that came in with 4.0. We've started to employ a more object-based way of managing our appliances and the devices attached to it. So we can go to our IP hosts. We can then group them, group these hosts by IP address, and again with domain, MAC addresses, and services. So it gives you a way of like grouping all of your accounting appliances or accounting endpoints, and then you can start applying things like rules or IDPS profiles and so on to those particular groups. And this allows for much easier management. You have to define those endpoints only once, and then you just refer to them over and over again through the hosts and groups that have been defined here in this page. Okay, mail settings, another one we can just skip over because this is just the email engine used by the Crystal Eye appliance to send out email reports. Software updates we've just covered, and system registration. If you ever need to get support, come on, here we go. If you ever need to get support, we will ask for the host key. You'll find the host key, oops, come back, right here. So that, you should copy that. If you ever need to provide it to us for support, just copy that, put it in the support request, and away we go. It just gives us a way to uniquely address that appliance. Right, that covers system registration. Let's have a look at our network control. You've got the ability to generate and manage your certificates. We've also got device management. So yours is going to look reasonably empty. This one's going to look pretty busy because I've got a lot of stuff on the network. And it gives you the ability to do things like map devices. So you got the IP address, MAC address, that sort of thing. You can assign a user a type. So I'll just say admin for that one. We'll update that. And what this means is that we can then go back and we can look at devices either by attachment to an interface, or we can look at types. In 4.5, we can even start grouping it by user. So another nice feature coming to the network map. We'll just quickly skip over to infrastructure. So infrastructure allows us to set up multiple networks, VLANs and all sorts. If you've got a series 20 or onwards, you can start managing LAN 2, 3 and 4, and also WAN 2, and you can start configuring them. A word about configuring networks. There is a best practice we try to share with everyone. So WAN 1 is typically your primary WAN connection. So that's typically either DHCP or PPPoE, and we leave it at that. LAN 1, we try to leave this as a management port. So if anything happens, if you need to get back to basics, you should always be able to take a laptop, plug it into LAN 1, it'll give you an IP address, and you can just access it by going to 10.10.1.1 or crystaleye.lan. If we start messing with LAN 1, there is a chance that, I mean, we know that default settings will not work if you change them. So it's just nice to reserve LAN 1 as management, and then for production stuff. So if you need to add like additional production networks, you can use LAN 2 through to LAN 4, and you configure those as you like. But of course, we've also got VLAN tagging as well. SSH server. Okay, I'm sure this will raise a few eyebrows. SSH servers, usually not left flapping out there in the breeze. It's the same thing here with this. Even though we might have SSH servers on these appliances and enabled, they can only be accessed by a set of IP addresses that we define. So this is a support tool that we use. So if you ever need to get into your appliance to help like with support, this is one of the tools that we use. And while we're here talking about support, if you ever need to enable remote support, you can. By default, it's usually turned off for security reasons. So you'll find this by going straight to the bottom of the left-hand side where it says support. You click on that and you've got remote support here. So remote support right now is disabled. Let's say I want to have someone from our support team access the appliance so they can help with the configuration or help with, say, clearing a log or whatever. We just click on Enable. Remote support is enabled. You'll get a warning just to make sure that we're aware of it. And we then share the host key with them, and with the secure username and passwords that we keep, we can then access these appliances. So just a word on passwords. So we do have root passwords on these. These passwords are not hard-coded, and they are different for every single appliance out there. So we've looked at the lessons that the rest of the industry has taught us, and we've actually employed them. Okay, back to network control. We've had a look at infrastructure. Yeah, okay, so DHCP server. You can set up a DHCP server or multiple DHCP servers on a number of interfaces. So this gives you some real flexibility when it comes to defining scope. Of course, you can do set leases, so you can set your static leases as well. And you've also got general settings. So this is usually left as it is, authoritative mode with a maximum leases of 1,000. This prevents any denial of service cases where you might have an appliance out there just grabbing IP addresses, and then we run out of addresses, and that's a problem. So we've tried to avoid that by capping the maximum at 1,000. You can change to suit your own needs. DNS server. Yeah, we have a DNS server on the appliance, so you can do all sorts of fun stuff. So global DNS configurations, forwarding, host entries, DNS zones, banned domains, and reports. Network settings are covered, SSH server stuff we've covered, network diagnostic tool, and that's your ping and your trace route. We also support quality of service. So quality of service is, actually, have we gone over time? Hope not. We're getting close. Okay, quality of service, we know what that's all about. Routing, we have dynamic routing and multi-WAN. So setting up multi-WAN is super easy. You put you set up your second WAN port. So WAN 2 is configured, and then it's just turned on. So you set your metrics. So the lower the number of the let's see, the lower the number of the metric on the interface, the higher the priority. So have a quick look at WAN 1. So you'd set your metric here. So for your primary ones, we'd say usually set it at 10. Your secondary, set it at 20 or 100. So just make sure that the secondary one has got a higher metric value to your primary. And that will allow WAN failover to work nicely. You also got the ability to set your static routing. We have SD-WAN. So anyone wanting to get VPN sorted out, we can do point-to-point or IPsec VPN. We've also got SSL VPN. And those of you that are interested, we've also got Wireguard. So Wireguard is a newer type of VPN, and it's actually quite powerful. It's faster. It's got lower overhead. It just works all in all better. We've also got our wireless access point, which we can set up here. I think I've got this one. No, it's running. Okay. But yeah, that's fine. So you can have a look at your wireless access point. Again, this is only on series 10, 20, and 25. When they start getting to our rack mount devices, so 30 and up, there's really no point in having a wireless access point built into a rack. All right, security configuration. We've got our advanced firewall. You can define your firewall zones. You can get traffic rules, application rules, and gateway traffic rules. So if you want to do port forwarding, it's done. Let's see, where do we put it? Yeah, I think traffic rules is where we set that up. But yeah, it's all there. We've also got links in our to our manual. So you can go to manual.redpiranha.net and get more information on things like port forwarding and configuring your firewall. Application whitelisting. We do application allow listing or filtering on the network level as well as on the host level. So we can start generating fingerprints of these applications, which goes down to the application on the device. So it gets really, really granular, and it will be used. You can kick it off. It'll start generating rules. So it's more of an audit phase. And then once you've gone through an audit phase for maybe a couple of weeks, you can then start going into more like a protection or a control phase where it'll actually stop access. We have Forcefield. Now, Forcefield is really cool. It's, short, fail to ban, but the really cool thing is we've got automated actionable intelligence. So we spend a lot of time doing threat analysis. We generate rules. We also find out who the bad actors are, and we find out what their IP addresses are, and we maintain a reputation list. So we've got known bad hosts and known good hosts. So the known bad hosts stands at 470,108 IPs, which we manage for you and we update constantly. So your appliance is automatically aware of the bad actors out there. You also notice we've got 16 known good hosts. Obviously, this is our Red Piranha update network. So obviously, we don't want to lock ourselves out of receiving updates. You've got automated actionable intelligence updates. And let's see, last one was at 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 27th. Okay. So yeah, it's a daily update, as you can see. So at 3 a.m. every morning, we get a fresh list of known bad IP addresses. All right, I'm probably looking at the wrong end here. All right. Cool. Well, that's our automated actionable intelligence. This is unique to the Red Piranha. This is our product. We've also got gateway security. So we scan for malware. We also have the ability to blunt phishing attacks by looking for some telltale signs. We block access to those payloads. And of course, everything has antivirus, so we do too. We have intrusion detection and prevention. This is another really cool feature that we have. Our competitors have maybe 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 rules. We have, let's just say in our default rule set, this one here, 50,000 rules in one of our 6 rule sets. And these rule sets can be tuned to a particular application. So we've got our default rule set. We've also got a rule set for cloud services, web application firewalls. We can do that as well. And it's just easy to select a rule set and just go for it. And that also negates the need for you as engineers to go in and start writing your own rules, because we do that for you. These rule sets are managed by Red Piranha security operations staff. You can dig into the rules if you like. We suggest that maybe you don't, but the option is there. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to write rules, and you've got a particular rule in mind that you need to put in place for yourself or a client, you can. Log processing reporting, of course, protocol filtering. We give you the ability to filter applications and protocols, and it's quite extensive actually. Let's see, protocols is pretty impressive. So we can have a look at our blocked protocols. Just click on edit, just to give you an idea of how many protocols we block or filter. So just pick a protocol, put a tick in a box, and click on update, and away you go. That's done. We also have a web filter, so we can do content filtering. So if you want to block access to pornography, gambling, like any sort of non-work related sites, that can be done on the appliance. When someone tries to access block content, they then receive like a page saying this content is blocked, and that puts the partner's contact details that we defined before with the little logo and everything, that's presented to the user. So if in case they are blocked from accessing something that's legitimate, they can get on the phone, call you and say, hey, we need to have this content filtering tweaked. And there you go, you're still keeping in touch with your customer. Web access control is pretty straightforward. So time of day, you can turn web access control on and off based on person or time of day, and also web proxy server. Now we are starting to run thin on time. We'll quickly look at compliance controls, because this is also one of the really cool sections. We've got a DLP, data loss protection. It will automatically monitor for number patterns. So you turn it on, it'll be looking for patterns like credit card numbers, social security numbers. We can also monitor file movement. You can also define your own sensitive files. So if we were to have like an important file, you say add, you give the file a name, give the rule action to be an alert or a reject. So you can either set an alert when it's moved or touched, or we can absolutely just say, no, you can't move it, and just stop it. And you upload the file, and it generates a hash, and then the Crystal Eye monitors that hash for any movement or access, and it can then also produce a report. Incident response services. This is a pretty simple dashboard, just saying that we've got incident response set up and running. We've defined our IDPS alerts and our AV alerts, and this is the incident response that goes back to our SOC. So if they see anything happen, they'll get back in touch with you to say, hey, something's up. We've got our incident events services, which we've already covered during setup. Network backup. If you need to have a backup server implemented, we can do that. So you can back up endpoints, so Apple, Windows, Linux, as long as you can run the backup PC client, it'll talk to the Crystal Eye appliance, and you can add like a USB drive for added storage, and you can start backing up to the appliance. We've also got database backups, so we can do native database backups. Forensic logging, network file share. Because we've got heaps of storage, we're quite happy to have them to set them up as like a NAS. Right, packet capture analysis. So if we wanted to implement packet capture, it's all there on the appliance. The big advantage of this is that if you have a breach or an event, typically the way it used to be was that you'd have a breach and you'd contact your Big Four or whoever your incident response person is. They'd come on out maybe in a couple of weeks' time with an appliance. They plug into the network. It sits there for a few days. They do some monitoring, pick it up, take it back to the office, do the report. And in the meantime, you're still struggling with a network that's not running as it should. The difference is with packet capture analysis built into the appliance, if there's an event, in most cases we'd know before you, we could fire off a packet capture analysis straight away, and within minutes we'd have a good capture of traffic analysis that we'd then be going over at our SOC, and we can then do the triage response and write it up. And this is how we managed to do our like our 24-minute response record. Very pleased about that. Risk auditing. This is something we've already covered before. So this is a critical security controls, but it's also where we find our CEASR app, which you'll be talking about early next month, I believe. That's right, isn't it, Dana? Okay, and then we've also got, that's what.
Sorry, Ben, I couldn't
the old mute ramble. Yeah. November 10th, there we go. So put that in your diaries to find out more about the Windows Crystal Eye attack surface reduction tool. Super powerful tool. We might have a chance to give you a quick rundown on it before we finish up, even though we're running late. Okay, vulnerability scanning. Again, don't do this, don't try this at home yet. Wait until you get your own appliance. Please don't do it on the AWS instances because it just kills it for everyone. But it will go out, you can schedule a scan, it'll go out and do it, and then it'll produce a nice report that you can then go back to your client and say, this is the stuff we need to look at. This is also something that's used by our own risk management team. So if you're using our eCISO or vCISO services, we can use this tool to then start generating lists of things that we need to pay attention to. Okay, we've also got the reports. As you can see, this is a device that just needs hours and hours and hours to go over. So trying to cover the whole thing in an hour is just unreasonable, but hey, we give it a try every time. We've got our executive report. We can get a status update on our applications. We can have a look at disk usage. These are all reports that can be scheduled and emailed to you or to a client. So everyone's aware of what's going on. There we go. Got our disk usage, events and notifications, gateway scan report, our IP attack map, and so on and so forth. And then we have our marketplace. We've already been here when we installed all these applications. It's always a good thing to go back and have a look at what's available, what we can play with, because it's like a catalog of things that we can do. And then, of course, we've got our support. Our support comes with the license when you purchase the appliance, so you can submit a bug or a support ticket. You can email us. It's support@redpiranha.net. We've got our community forums. That's at forum.redpiranha.net. And of course, you can go to your account dashboard. That's Orchestrate. So you've already got access to that. Now, I'm finished with this one. So what I'll do is I'll disable remote support. And that covers everything. Now, before I stop sharing my screen, this is what we've got coming up. This is on Thursday, the 10th of November. This is the Crystal Eye Attack Surface Reduction webinar. I do encourage you to look at it because this will allow you to employ this tool to sort of take those first steps towards employing your essential 8. So using the CEASR tool along with the Crystal Eye appliance, you can really make a dent in your compliance requirements. And that, I think, brings us back to there we go, to that. Just a couple to cover. So yes, we've covered our online, not the manual.redpiranha.net. Don't forget that one. We've got our ticketing system or support. It's all there. You can also contact us by phone if you like. We don't mind chatting. And you're also more than welcome to keep in touch with your account manager. So I quite often feed information to our account managers. So when there's an update, I try to let them know. We have regular meetings. So yeah, they're always up to date with the latest. So the next steps, if you haven't already, you can put in an order for your very own Crystal Eye NFR or not for retail unit to protect your own network at work and also learn how to use it. You can become a Crystal Eye certified engineer by undertaking our CECE course. It's quite in depth and that also will be updating soon as we move to 4.5 and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're quite happy to work with you when it comes to offering solutions to your partners or potential customers. We've also got our partner assurance and sales enablement programs. And of course, please join the forum. Share your feedback and suggestions. With your help, we can make the Red Piranha and Crystal Eye appliances and products even better. Now's a good time to throw open to the floor for any questions you guys might have.
Great job.
Sorry, I'm going to need a drink.
Thanks.
Give me a minute.
Demonstration. But yes, if you do have any questions, please throw them in the chat. Happy to answer them now. We've also dropped some links for upcoming events, our YouTube channel where we do post a lot of webinars and material on demand, and of course our forums manual for further support. All right, Ben, got a question.
Terry says, any tentative date for when the compliance controls course will be ready? It says coming soon. The compliance controls course, are we talking the Crystal Eye attack surface reduction webinar, or must be something else I haven't quite caught up with?
I'm not sure either. Question. Where are you viewing that, Terry? It must be.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Crystal Eye certified engineer course. Yes, this is being rewritten as we are on the verge of releasing version 4.5. So yeah, it's coming soon. It has been coming soon for a little while, but yes, it's coming soon. It's certainly got our attention for sure. Hopefully not too much longer, Terry.
Terry, and for all partners, we'll be updating our partners when 4.5 is launched and also when the new version of CEC is updated. So be assured you'll be contacted by your account manager. Oh yeah, you better believe it. We'll be so pleased to finally get that released. It's been a lot of work. Looking forward to it.
Any other questions? I can also, if anyone wants to stick around, quite happy to show off a couple of little things we got going in 4.5. I've got access to the beta lab. So for anyone who's interested, a show of hands or with some yeses. Otherwise, I'm just going to go get some lunch. Yes. Terry's game.
Terry's all for it.
All right, give me just a sec, Terry. Now, keep in mind, this is the beta release. This is not the final product, but it just gives you an idea of what's coming. So here we go. All right, so a lot of the interface still looks the same. There's just been some slight changes here and there. See, a couple of things we've got coming is...
I can't see the screen if
forgot
you're
a button.
Sharing it.
Give me a minute. We'll share that. Thanks for that, Dana.
No problems.
All right. 4.5 beta. Let's see. Yes.
There we go. Got it.
All right. So we still have Active Directory authentication, but we've taken it a step further because we've now also able to include the Azure Active Directory authentication as well. So there we go. We have Azure AD that's supported. So that is available. At the moment, it's not showing as configured because I'm using the Active Directory authentication with a local AD server. We have a look at network control, device management. Yeah, this is the one. This one that's had, as you can see, a big change. So much more easy to read. We can view devices by interface, by user, by type, by IP or MAC address. So we can even have a look at devices by user. So let's see, we administrator, and then there's me. And so we can just start drilling down to users. So this makes life a lot easier when it comes to managing endpoints, and we can see who's using what. This is going to be changed a little bit, so this interface needs a little bit of work. We can have a look at our unmapped network devices as well, so we can start going in and mapping them or viewing reports on them. Let's see, email scanning gateway, that's got some updates as well. So we're really looking forward to releasing this. This will give tighter integration to Microsoft 365 tenancies. I think we're also testing Gmail. So Google Suite products, we should be able to get some tighter integration with that one as well. The problem is it's a moving target. Every time we think we got it right, Microsoft being Microsoft or Google being Google, they change little things. So things like authentication, they change the way it works. We have to go and do it again. Infrastructure stays mostly the same. We just had some general improvements. You'll also notice that the performance on this is quite snappy. This is because we've also updated our database engines as well. So they're more efficient, they move faster. It's just generally a better time for everyone. Security configuration, we've had a few changes with the way the security configuration looks and feels. So we're just trying to regroup some of the applications into something that makes a little more sense in the layout. So that's coming as well. Our compliance controls. So again, we've got the ability to hook into Azure Active Directory. So this gives us good visibility over your Azure environment or your tenancy. And this is vital when it comes to things like auditing. And it's a very important part of the compliance tool set. So also very excited about that. That's really cool as well. Reports, marketplace support, a lot of things stay the same, but we do have some new features coming. So yeah, keep an eye out for 4.5 when it becomes available. Any questions while we're still got a few minutes maybe?
Whilst we're waiting, maybe take a look at the CEASR app.
Ooh, yes. Okay, let's see if we can do that. Look, my pleasure, Terry. Terry says thank you for the 4.5 run through. My pleasure. I just love showing it off because I think it's just so cool. Okay, now let's see, CEASR. So our CEASR app, let's have a look at our compliance controls. Where do we put it? Risk auditing, there it is. Right, so the application, Windows CEASR, you can download the CEASR app. Once it's downloaded, you run it. Now, let's see, did I get it? Yes, I installed it on this appliance, sorry, on this laptop. So give me just a second and I'll show you. Oh, this is an early version. I'll just. Oh, look,
Sorry,
I'm happy to do it live. Let's do this. Okay, so the CEASR application, it allows us to do things like attack surface reduction is one of the big ones. So we can do things like blocking executables by email, script downloading. Let's do an easy one. Let's see, we'll block access, PowerShell. All right, so we should be able to disable access to PowerShell, so we can turn off script execution, and that should still allow us that interactive thing. Let's see, I think I've probably removed it, but yeah, it's really just as easy. Let's say we want to turn off script execution. So right now it's enabled. Click on disable. The rule's been applied. That's it. You've just disabled script execution on this endpoint. So that's a clear demonstration on how easy it is to block access to different parts. So instead of having to dive into the registry or do all sorts of hacks that are just such a pain, you just open up the application and you go for it. You've also got application allow listing. So we've got all these that we can access. I'd say Dymo Connect. Let's say we want to disable that. We can, that's it, stop that from executing. So if I was to try and open up the Dymo application, it'll not run. As simple as that. All right. And then you can export this data to the Crystal Eye appliance. It'll then show in our Windows devices here. This isn't linked, but you get the idea. It will allow you to see the device MAC, IP address, device name, interface type, and action. You can click on it. It'll also show you like the number of devices that are protected, the number of devices that are protected. So at a glance, you get an idea on your level of compliance and how well your endpoints are screwed down. Terry, no. The CEASR application, once it's it's a good idea to keep it installed, and it'll keep talking back to the Crystal Eye appliance. That way you've all got that constant reporting. But the actual application control, this is all done in the registry. We've just given you an easier interface to get that done. Hopefully that answers your question, Terry. No problem. Thanks very much for all those questions, especially Terry. He's been doing all the heavy lifting today. Thank you for that. Do you think that about covers it? I think we've gone, yeah.
I think we've covered it. If anyone does have any more questions, throw them in the chat now. Otherwise, we might wrap up for the day. But do join us on the 10th of November, or should I say join Dr. Nixon Curry and Anthony Blackman for, I'm sure, a very good webinar around the CEASR app. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to your local business development manager. Or myself, if you can't. Don't know.
Yeah.
I'll point you
just
in the
ask
right
anyone
direction.
here. We're happy to point you in the right direction if we can't help you immediately.
But looks like no more questions. So that might be time to say our farewells, and thanks
you all very much, everyone, for joining us. Yeah, hope to catch up with you again very soon. Checker, I think it's time for a song. What do you reckon?